Monster Hunter has some of my absolute favorite creature designs from any franchise out there. And while today's episode was actually originally going to be another PopCross design challenge, revolving specifically around Pokemon and fusing them with a bunch of different creatures from different franchises, I eventually realized that most of the designs I wanted to work with were from Monster Hunter. So I decided to get a little bit more specific and just go with Monster Hunter for today. Gonna fuse some of my absolute favorite Monster Hunter creatures with some Pokemon that feel like fitting design matches. Let's go!
Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
At the age of 16, every young, aspiring hunter from the village of Lavakoto is given the opportunity to seek out their first Pokévern partner. This is the moniker given to the beasts that roam the wilds of our world, that can be tamed into fighting with and for any courageous warrior. That is, if they can defeat the beast in combat first. Many lose their lives while on their first hunt, so it is heavily encouraged that they partake in ample training and learn to utilize the various weapons of Pokévern hunting before they leave. But even still, a prepared hunter is still entirely likely to be slain if they take on a beast of too great might too soon. One Pokévern that the most confident, or should I say most arrogant of young hunters will go after upon their first hunts is the Gyarados, the Slaughterer of the Seas. This monstrous leviathan may start its life in a simple, unthreatening form, but when it grows to its full size, becomes an incredibly aggressive beast that has the power to level whole villages in a matter of minutes with the hypershock beams it can spew from its gaping maw. Very rarely will a young hunter be able to find one of these beasts on their first hunt. But even rarer still is that one will render one unconscious in battle, earning its loyalty for showing one's incredible strength and cunning. There have been odd occasions where a hunter will find one while it's still young, and can then raise it to its full destructive form with a predetermined bond built. But often this will go awry as well, as the beast may realize its own strength has grown far beyond that of its hunter, and it may turn on them and return to its home in the seas and rivers. In this same vein, there is a tale of a cruel hunter who forcibly attempted to evolve this creature to its fullest form too quickly by feeding it concoctions of strange powders and the blood of an elder legend Pokévern. The beast then transformed into a creature of pure rage that seeks solely to kill and feed. This monstrosity was called the Abyssal Crimson Gyarados, and many are skeptical about whether it even exists at all. As you can imagine, if it does exist, the sightings of it in most cases will lead to the viewer's imminent demise. It is said in the ancient tales that more common Gyarados once had the ability to fly, but that they were banished from the skies by the elder legend Pokévern for their ruthless nature and desire to battle any beast that came their way. As a result, these creatures now dwell in the seas and seek vengeance on the elder legends, and if any dare to soar too close to its waters, it will emerge in a vortex of lightning and strike the elder from the skies. Likely, needless to say, I do not recommend any young travelers seek out one of these brutes. Though, if you do manage to tame one as your loyal Pokévern partner, you're likely to become one of the most revered young hunters in all the lands. Now, I went into this one with the intention of doing the best drawing I've done in 2023, and I went into a few of the drawings in this episode with that intention, but with this one, I came very close to hitting that mark. It may be my favorite drawing I've done this year. It's probably competing with the Brump from My Singing Monsters More Monstrous Episode 3, and the Cyan Dinosaur from Rainbow Friends, and maybe my Kuwagamon SCP as well, but I don't know, I really love how this one turned out. I haven't done this split water design a ton of times. This is probably maybe my fourth time, and I do really like it. But my one complaint of it that may be keeping this from being my favorite drawing of the year is it does feel like it just splits the composition a bit too much. Like all the points of interest are really in the top half, so it almost makes it feel like you could cut it off at the waterline and that would be the drawing. Like, I still really like the look of everything below, but the line of the water kind of makes it feel to me like there's a bit too much of a divide between the two different parts of the drawing, instead of having a good flow from one part to the next. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. Again, I still absolutely love this drawing, and also at the same time, I did do a red version of this. It's the same thing, I just changed up the color scheme and the sky in the background, and I'll have that pop up as I show the finished revealed version of this. But we'll get to that in a sec, because I also want to say that this is the first drawing where I've got a creature underwater where I actually tried drawing water caustics on its back, which is like that water refraction of light that you'd see on something that's gliding just beneath the water. And I got the idea from a Corridor Crew video, who, if you don't know them, they're a special effects channel. They've inspired a bunch of stuff on this channel before, and Ren from that channel was talking about rendering water caustics in special effects and different tactics for using that. And that just gave me the idea to try drawing them onto a creature that I have in a water setting. And it was pretty easy to do, and I think it is a nice extra little level of detail. Though it's something I'll want to play around a little bit more in the future to try and get better at it. There is another beast that overly confident hunters may seek as their ally, though this one doesn't quite dominate its food chain as the Lagiacrus does. Granted, at some point in its long history it may very well have. The Ajanath is said to once have been the king of its domain, able to defeat any creature who challenged it. But as time drew on, more powerful creatures emerged, and the Ajanath's ranking in the Pokevern kingdom slipped. Don't mistake my words though, the creature is still a fierce predator and will regularly challenge the other beasts of the mountains it calls home, but it is not entirely unlikely to see one slain at the hands of another Pokevern. Even still, it will regularly provoke other vicious creatures into battle using its frilled tail fans. While it is also theorized that these are used to regulate its body temperature, most commonly it is seen raising these fans when attempting to lure another beast into a conflict for territory. Its most powerful weapon is its massive jaws. It can crush the life out of smaller creatures in seconds if it is able to clamp the prey between its teeth, and with larger foes, it can snatch them in a vice grip and hurl them across a battleground with ease. It's said that when enraged enough, the creature's lower jaw will even be able to rapidly heat up and turn its lower teeth into burning blades, aiding them further in biting through whatever substance it clamps onto. Its bite is strong enough to snap through even some of the sturdiest blades, so carry a second or possibly even third weapon with you if you go on the hunt for these creatures. When the beasts are in battle with you, if you deem you've taken a bigger challenge than you can handle and attempt to flee, it is very likely the Ajanath will relentlessly pursue you, so be very clear before facing one whether or not it is a mission you are willing to see through to the end. Hunters who have managed to tame these beasts have proven to be at a great advantage in Pokevern Coliseum tournaments, but they are no guarantee of taking victory. Riding one of these beasts in battle against another can be a trying task, and their ferocity can lead them to being impulsive and obstinate towards their hunter's orders. The best you can do in advance is to train the beast in its own best hunting and battle tactics, so that if it does defy you, it at least does so in a way that could still take you to victory in the arena. It's kind of weird writing the lore for this one right now because I'm currently working on another very Pokemon-inspired project called Biomon. At least that's the working title. It's kind of like a blend of Pokemon and my Biomex. It's one of 3 audiobooks that I'm working on that I'll be selling on my Teespring store. I'm developing it through a podcast that I'm doing on the PopCross Studios Patreon right now. But the point is that that's a very peaceful inspiration of the Pokemon kind of concept of people teaming up with a monster. Whereas this is like you defeat the beast in battle and knock it unconscious, and then it becomes loyal to you, and then you can take it into battles. But anyway, overall I do love how this one turns out, though it does feel a little bit like it's lacking texture, and maybe that's just a matter of I was just looking at the Gyarados drawing, and that one is just so, I love that one so much that this one just feels a little bit lacking in comparison. I did try doubling up the amount of grain on this thing, which I put on just to add a bit of extra cheap and easy texture to pretty much all my drawings, and sometimes that helps, but in this case I don't really feel like it did that much. I did also try adding more orange streaks onto its face, but those just felt a little bit off and wrong and too busy, so I got rid of those. So I don't know exactly what it is that makes this one feel like it's a little bit lacking detail, but again, overall I still love it. And also, this is a little extra side note that I don't know if I've mentioned before, but those cloud streaks that I often do in the sky, the shape of them is usually very deliberate and serves a purpose. For this one specifically, doing the same kind of thing I often do, I have it kind of emphasizing as if there's a shockwave coming from the creature's roar, and then also helping to frame the creature's head. And of course, just add a little bit more detail into the sky. You might want to give that a try yourself. Anyway, let's take a look at the finished result.
Quick interruption to say that all the art from this episode will be up as usual on the PopCross Studios Teespring store, along with shirts, sweaters, ink bundles, and a bunch of fun stuff like that. Also that all the inks from this episode, if you want them to color yourself, are up on the PopCross Studios Patreon along with the high-resolution art, because inks and art go up there a day before a video is released, and I'm currently doing weekly bonus podcasts on there as well. But anyway, back into more art.
Some Pokévern will boldly confront foes by dominantly declaring their presence prior to an assault, while others are more cunning and devious. The Gyarados falls into this category. It has two methods for sneaking up on its prey. One is with its immense speed. It can both run and fly faster than near any other Pokévern, and can dive from the skies like a bolt of lightning to strike its foes before they are even aware that there's a threat. They move so quickly that wind from their bladed wings is said to be able to slice through trees. Alternatively, however, they may also approach their foes from beneath. Despite boasting powerful control over themselves in the skies, these creatures also have the unique ability to rapidly dig into the earth and burrow beneath a target to then drill up under their feet and snatch their prey in their mighty jaws or scoop them up and hurl them with their massive horns. It is also said about these creatures that the horns on their heads have a secondary function. While they are seen used in combat quite often, they can also be used for targeting prey. While the creature is standing on the ground, the horns will be able to detect a target in the distance, often leading to the creatures burrowing underground or soaring up into the skies to approach. Now, you may expect from the appearance of their mouths and the jagged spikes lining their tails, legs, and shoulders that these creatures are carnivorous and kill other beasts and hunters for their meals, but this is actually not the case. The Gyarados is a herbivorous creature, generally sustaining itself on cacti of the deserts or foliage from the nearest forests to it. That being said, it is still an incredibly territorial beast, and will charge at any creatures unfamiliar to its lands and skies. It is known to regularly come into conflict with the Tigromance, which is a species that has a tendency to migrate along flight paths over the Gyarados' home. Because these creatures are so territorial, it means they can be very easy to lure out into the open to hunt. But if you do attempt this, be ready for the battle of your life. Either you or your Pokévern partner will have your work cut out for you in attempting to defeat this vicious draconian desert shark. As I was writing for the lore for this one, I'd finished all the drawings already, and I thought of the idea of doing a Tigrex and Salamence mix, and I was like, ooh, I really like that. I wrote it into the lore for this. If this gets a second episode, which I'm not sure, maybe it will, I guess it depends how many likes it gets and how many people want more of this, but that will probably be a must if this does get the round 2. Now with this one, I wanted to try something a little bit different from my other dragon drawings, and I wanted to try having it coming straight at us and having the face kind of coming right at us too, because I feel like that's something I very rarely do. I do have a bunch of dragon poses, because I draw dragons on here so often, I have a bunch of like kind of stock dragon poses, especially for wyverns, that I do regularly, and I don't really mind that I repeat poses, but when I was coming into this, I was like, let's try something a little bit different. Although going into it, I was hoping to make it more dynamic than any of the other drawings, like really having it come at us. And in the end, I would say, maybe it's more dynamic than the Tyrantrum drawing, but I wouldn't say it's more dynamic than the Gyarados one. I do feel like there's a little bit too much empty space, though I do fill that out a little bit by adding some anime-style speed lines into it after the speed recording is finished. Also, I did originally plan on doing Aerodactyl and Diablos for this drawing because they both, like color scheme wise, they were very similar, but that actually ended up being the reason I didn't do it. I've never worked with Aerodactyl on this channel, I don't think, even though as a kid that was one of my absolute favorite Pokemon, but I thought the color scheme was going to be a bit too boring. Whereas when I looked at Garchomp, thought about the fact that they both had dig kinds of moves, digging under the ground to attack people. They also both had head horn kind of things, and Garchomp has a much more colorful design than Aerodactyl. Decided to go that route instead, and I think it was the right call. But if you can think of a good match for Monster Hunter and Aerodactyl, let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's take a look at this one.
This is some top tier stuff right here. This is going in the best of PopCross playlist for sure. And I'd love to know if you all have other suggestions for Pokemon Monster Hunter fusions that you think the designs would mesh well for. Let me know in the comments. And if you want more like this, I don't have a ton of other Monster Hunter stuff. I did an episode turning them into folklore creatures last year, but I have lots of other Pokemon videos. You might specifically like my Pokemon as Dragons episodes. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a quote from James Clear, who says that optimists win in the long run because their miscalculation of how likely it is to succeed or how long something will take motivates them to give it a try. You're not very likely to try and go after something if you think there's almost no chance you're going to succeed. So with any endeavor that you're feeling passionate about, go into it with an optimistic outlook. Maybe you won't get it as soon as you think, but you're way more likely to get it than if you don't go after it at all. I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you on Friday. Goodbye.